Good afternoon. I want to welcome all of you here. My name is Vincent, Yo, Old Woman, and
I'm Butch Wolfleg.
and we're both from Siksika. And I've known Butch, since around that much, I think.
Since we were this tall.
Oh, this tall, something like that.
Yeah.
You can't see that on the screen, but about this tall. And but anyways, I've known him for a long time. We've known each other for a long time. Went to residential school together. I spent more time in residential school than he did. So a lot of the stuff that we hear out there in Canada, we know we've heard that and so forth. So it's always good to have somebody here. And after we left residential school, we just kind of went separately, and I got into a lot of trouble and stuff like that, and then got my life turned around and so forth, and then we started meeting up again. And so just want to let you guys know that if you guys are looking for a good powwow announcer, well, here's the guy to do it.
And same over here.
And we both do powwow announcing, and sometimes we get good money powwow announcing. and sometimes we were promised we were going to get paid, but
we got treaty money.
We got $5. $5 that night we got. So anyways, so if you're looking for a powwow announcer, he's the guy to do it. And also played in a rock band and they come back together every now and then.
Oh yes.
Just jam and so forth, and so I'm glad that he's a part of what we're doing ever. This thing started since way back in June. Every Wednesday we're here, and so I'm glad you guys are finally give them away, Butch. So,
Okay, I'm trying to see them.
There's one
Oh,
guy.
there's one person right
One
there.
person, yeah.
Okay, hello there.
Please listen to us. So we're happy that you're here, and we talk about very serious stuff. And last Thursday, I got to hear him speak. If you want to hear a powerful speaker on residential school, he's the guy. And very passionate, and gets to the point and so forth. And I spoke Thursday morning.
Very passionately, too.
Yeah.
My granddaughter asked if she was really angry.
So anyways, I drove to Siksika, and that's where I met up with him on Thursday afternoon. And then Thursday evening, we went to Strathmore. So I had a full day on the Orange Shirt Day, and September 30th. And we continued to talk about residential school. And so how was your Thursday?
Oh, well, I started off the morning over at the Elders Lodge. There was a ride and a run from the Arbor up to the Osan College, and then there were some walkers that came from there, and they met up at the Elders Lodge. But while we were waiting for them, we had some dancers, so we went inside to the Elders Lodge to entertain and also let people know what the day was. And so they had a nice little powwow, a very mini powwow in the Elders Lodge. We had one of the Elders Lodge residents in a wheelchair just rolled himself out, and he was right into the dance there. So that was really very inspiring. And then we took a walk from there with the group that we caught up with us at the lodge, and we went over to the park across the administration, and where they had some events set up. But then I had to bow out of that really just before noon to do a presentation for these some sort of oil people, a Zoom presentation about a residential school, because they've become quite interested in this injustice that had been they had just finally known about as a result of those 215 that were found in Kamloops. And then later on, and that event was sponsored by Siksika Health. I mean, the one at the park, and then and then I went to the West Daycare Center, where it was sponsored by Siksika Family Services, and that's where I met up with Vincent, and we had a chance to address the crowd, and there was some young people, really good musicians.
Talented
Oh,
young
geez, this brought back some memories, and
Very proud
just
of
what we was talking about regarding a rock band.
Yeah.
I used to play in a rock and roll group starting in the '60s and right up into the '90s, and so it was quite. I guess for me, it was very, very inspiring, and at the same time, I have a lot of hope for our young people in the future, for whatever they decide to, what kind of talents they may be able to share with the community and their peers and so forth. And that night, the New Blood was in Strathmore, but I couldn't make it. But Siksika Family Services sponsored the next night. So I had a chance to go there and see New Blood. That's the second time I've seen that show. And it's still, it's close to the heart and the emotions and so forth. And so that's something that we recommended it last time. For any schools, organizations, or whatever that would like to have a play that is done in really, really nicely. You'll get through song and dance and through narrative, and you understand what the residential school did, and it was based on Vincent's experience in residential school.
Professionally done.
Oh, it's beautifully done.
Beautifully done.
And after, just like what Vincent said, after residential school, of course, I got integrated into the white school system, and then I got a chance to go to school from home, which was a whole different experience. And of course, as he said, later on, he got into some bad stuff and whatever. Same thing with me. I got into, well, I'm not going to mince any words. I got into drinking, which made me feel good. And a lot of times I don't have to remember these things that had happened at residential school. And got into other drugs, mind-altering drugs like what they called psychedelics, and of course marijuana. So when I talk to young people about these things, they know I've experienced those things because I needed to. As I shared with the group there at the daycare center, we're always numbing ourselves. Because that allowed us not to have to think about these things that we experienced in residential school. And we both got into that. And as Vincent said, we've known each other for a long time, all our lives pretty near, except for maybe 3 or 4 years before we got together and started. It's like that kind of a friendship that you never knew when we first got together. It's just like it's always been there. And at times, I feel that we're very vocal voices for residential school survivors, because a lot of them are still very guarded about what they want to talk about, because in a lot of cases it's very embarrassing, it's very shameful what happened to some people, and there's really no outlet for their anger that they experienced, and they never had a chance. When you're only about 5, 6, 7 years old, you didn't have a chance to fight back.
That's right.
And that's what they grew up with. And as I shared with the group there, residential school, you get to the point where you don't display your feelings. You don't want to give those away. Because somebody who could take advantage of them, especially our supervisors and overseers. And so we don't have an outward display of how we're feeling. Also the fact that we were very, we couldn't talk about it. As our parents did, they didn't really, they didn't share too much about it. My older brothers were there before I was, but they never shared anything with me about what was going to happen, and
The danger of it, yeah.
so it was just something that wasn't talked about. And so consequently, there's ways of dealing with this, and for me, it was through alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
And until I stopped drinking and taking that stuff, even though I was sober, I still had all that emotion and anger and unresolved grief,
Yeah.
trauma that didn't go anywhere until I went to treatment. And then when I went to treatment, at that time it was a 4 weeks treatment, 28 days.
Yeah.
And it took me about a week. And then the next week, all this stuff started to come out.
Yeah.
Something triggered, somebody might have said something in a group, and all of a sudden all these memories came back. And I got really angry, got really emotional, wanted to do something now that I was an adult. And although I knew the things that I was talking about doing weren't very constructive and would probably have gotten me into a lot of trouble with the law, but that's when it started to come out, and I started working with it. So through therapy and continued counseling, and especially my work with the elders of our community became more important, because they were showing me things such as, in our language you call it kimmapip, it's
Yeah.
kindness,
Yeah.
and akumimstan, which is love. So those are the things that they talk to me about. They talk about those things when you're smoking their pipes and having sweats and doing ceremonies and so forth. There was all those key elements were always talked about, and so that kind of it got me to go back to when I was young, when we were part of the what's known as Sundance, and so my life was with that, and when I was drinking and drugging, I kind of drew away from that.
Yeah.
Because for some sane reason, I knew that didn't have a place there. So that I guess you could say that provided me with I don't know how you would say it, regrowth, but I had the chance to nurture that side of me regarding the spirituality and so forth. So and Vincent's a pretty rough hockey player. We played hockey together.
Oh, yeah, we played hockey.
And,
He was a defenseman. I played left wing.
And it was kind of crazy because we were the only Indian team in the league, and we would play against all these white teams, and man, those games got pretty rough. And as I mentioned maybe sometime before, it gave us a chance to come out with our aggression.
Get out there.
But of course, we drew a lot of penalties because we kind of went a little overboard.
Passion. It's called passion.
And there were times that we got escorted out of town by the police because the town was ready to I don't know, gang up on us because we were kind of taking our liberties with their sons on the ice with some really rough play. You think back on those things, and for me it was was a chance to kind of let out some of this anger that really didn't have an outlet for it. So in a lot of ways, hockey provided that for us, and
outlet, temporary.
And then of course once we. We haven't gotten over that hump yet. We still have a lot of our people that are still numbing themselves with alcohol and drugs, legal and illegal, opioids, and especially I get strung out on painkillers and so forth that only delays
That's
And-
the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we're still dealing with here on the nation. So me and Vincent are always mentioning that, and when we have a chance, when we get invited to speak at these events. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times me and Vincent are, we speak on behalf of residential school survivors that don't feel ready to talk or are not comfortable talking in front of crowds. And so I take some of their thoughts and feelings, and which are the same as mine, and share those so that they can be heard, especially by our children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
Because they've been trying to figure out why we didn't teach them our language. But that's something I take,
We take responsibility.
I take that responsibility
Yeah.
that I didn't teach my children language
Yeah.
because I didn't want them to go through all this punishment and hurt by speaking their language that happened to myself in residential school. So I saved them, but I didn't pass the language on, although now they're starting to come back to it. And
That's good. That's a good point. I think when we're talking about the things that we lost in residential school, it's very key. I don't know if you came with me. There was a group of us about 15, 20 years ago. We went down to Tucson, Arizona, the university there.
no, I think you were on that one, yeah.
Okay. I think it was at the university or at the Casino Hotel, the tribe owned. There was a big hotel or either one of those places, can't remember. Anyways, there was, I don't know, about 150, 200 young people across North America. And one of the questions that was asked them, what would you like to have, what would you like to be in 20 years, 25 years from now? You know what was number one? I thought money would be number one, a new house would be a new Ford would be a new number one. The number one was language. They wanted to learn language.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all the young people here, like my grandson Shade here, really wants to know the language. So I told him next time I go to your house, I'm going to speak Blackfoot. I won't say any English, and I'll give you hints and everything, but you got to learn the language the hard way.
Oh, just as a reminder,
Yeah.
sometimes we lapse into talking Blackfoot and we don't translate. So we heard your feedback, your comments that when we speak Blackfoot, if we could provide translation. So we're going to be.
We're going to try.
We're going to keep that in mind.
So, anyways, we had. Just before we quit Thursday, I was very impressed with the young people, the rock bands, and then did you notice in the drum group they were all young kids,
Oh yeah.
except for 2 or 3 adults. They were teaching us how to sing and so forth. That was good. The young people and family services did a good job in just using the young people. And those are the kids. They're the leaders for tomorrow. And so I was glad they did that. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no entertainment from outside, but our own kids. They were entertaining us through our culture, through rock band and so forth. So just wanted to mention that.
Oh yes.
And then we ended off last week. Was it last week or did we get
Last
followed?
week, yeah. Remember we
Okay.
did that day before
Yeah,
the GNR day on Thursday.
and we were talking about 94 calls to action. And so that, Butch, a lot of people always tell me, how can we help you?
Mm-hmm.
How can we help you guys? And so what do they mean by that? So we need to help them. I remember coming here. I don't know if you were here with me. Oh, about 4 years ago. I think you were in leadership at that time. A group of senators came here across Canada. They were traveling. I don't know how many places they went, but they stopped here. And the leadership asked me to come and meet with these group of senators. There was about 8 or 10 of them, those senators that came. And so I had a good visit with them, good talk with them. The chief from Sutina was there with me, and he was the one that stayed right from the beginning, right to the end, the chief from Sutina. At the end, there was just me and another elder. 3 of us stayed for the whole session. But the senators asked us at the end, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? The same thing with this TRC, with the same thing with this discovery of the graves that's happening right now. People are saying, what can we do? Where can we go from here? What are the next steps? Those senators said, and I'll answer it in the same way I answered their question. What are the next steps? But before I do that, a couple of days before that, I phoned some key people that I know are very wise. I have their phone numbers, and they're wise guys. And very
Wise guy. You're
wise.
talking about gangsters.
But they're knowledgeable people, very gifted, and they do hard work on this. And that was Dr. Leroy Littlebear from the Blood Preserve. So I called him and I told him quickly, I said, Leroy, there's a group of senators coming. I said, I know at the end of our talk, they're going to say, what are the next steps? And he said, Imatsi Kuats.
It's not hard.
It's not hard. Matsi Kuats. Kaya going to stay, when we calls to action, there's 94 steps. Those are the steps you can take. And then also the United Nations Declaration. Those are the next steps they can take. So when people are phoning us, they want to know how we could help them. And my response to them now is that get a copy of the 94 steps to action.
96.
96?
I think that's what it is. What is it?
94.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry. You got that. Sorry, I made a mistake. I don't know why I was thinking of 96. That must have been a very good year. I was in Australia.
90, lost my train of thought.
94 calls.
I told the people that want to help me, help us, First Nations. When I say, I mean all the people across Canada. They want to come to the reserve and help us. You guys need to know our culture and at least have a little knowledge of who you are. And please get a copy of the 94 calls to action. I got a call from Strathmore. And there's, I forget what they're called. It's with the RCMP. Well, anyways, when something dramatic happens, they come. It's a response. What's that word? Trauma response. I forget what they're called, but they want to come. He said time to time they get calls to the reserve. They want to know a little bit of our culture. So I tell people, like groups, oil companies, banks. I went and spoke at a bank industry a couple years ago, and I told them, I said, you need to know who we are. And so once you know a little bit of who we are, then you get an appreciation of some of the thinking. And one of those ways on the written form is the 94 calls to action. They're separated in different groups so you can study them, get to know them, and we'll be happy to help you on some of those steps to
I'm going to add 2 more.
go.
No,
ahead.
make it 96 again. No, just so you, just kind of like a quick review. In 2015, they finished what was known as the Truth and Reconciliation hearings, so to speak. And that's when they came up with the 94 calls to action. You can look those up. They're called 94 calls to action, Truth and Reconciliation. And they cover a lot of areas. And what that calls to action are all about is making right the wrong and the harm that was done by residential schools. And as you know now, all First Nations in Canada and up in the north, the Inuit and even some Métis people, they were affected by these residential schools. And that's what those 94 calls to action are about. And they're very specific what people need to do. And so for those of you who need to take a look at that, take a look at those 94 calls to action. Just like under the issue, they have them under different headings like education.
Yeah.
People need to be educated about residential schools. A sordid history, but it's the truth. And that's something that can't be just swept under the carpet again. Things such as the language. I've talked about that. And there needs to be a very concerted effort regarding the language. Getting that revived and being a part of our communications, I guess you could say, communication goal. Here at Siksika Nation, the leadership are taking a very, very serious look at the language, and they're taking a look at ways and means of putting our language ahead of English here on our nation, which would be a total turnaround of what was done before to try and take it away from us. And it wasn't taken away fully, so we still have that. Also things like in health,
Yeah.
it's like the things we were supposed to be protected against, and the things that substandard health, like we're always being pushed into the cheapest medicines, such as generic brands that our treaty said that we were going to work together and as a to get those things that the government of Canada would be administering to all of the population. We're supposed to get an equal amount of that, just like any other citizen here in Canada. And also things such as justice, the disproportionate numbers of people that are in jail in relation to our low population. And but we, I don't know what the exact figures are, but we constitute maybe less than 3% of the population. But within the jails, we constitute at least about 60 to 80% of the inmates are Indigenous people. So you can tell that there's a different way that we are being dealt with within the courts, by the police, even by lawyers that sort of give up on us. And now that's slowly changing by the lawyers that are willing to follow their prescribed, I guess you could say, their prescribed ethics to be able to represent our people properly. We still have the police issues that we're still dealing with. Also the missing and murdered Aboriginal women. I don't know if a lot of you keep track of the national news, but there was a white lady that went missing in the States, and they called out everybody, state police, FBI, county police. Everybody was called out to look for this one woman, simply because he'd gone missing because of a domestic issue. And in the meantime, we have a lot of missing Aboriginal women and men that have not been accorded the same effort to locate them. We still have we still have a number here at Siksika of missing Siksika men and women. And those are, for whatever reason, the effort hasn't been put into those kind of issues. So these are some of the reconciliation things that need to be done to right the harm that has been done to us through these different areas.
That's important. I think first of all, I want to appreciate just to acknowledge those individuals that want to come and help us. Well, first of all, we want to say thank you to you and on behalf of your group. But we just want them not to have an agenda.
Yeah.
Don't have an agenda. And certainly, and I'll say it again, we don't want your money. And I'll say it again, please don't come with an attitude, we're gonna take care of you, we're gonna save you, we're gonna help you. No, we don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
We will help ourselves. And but if you come with that kind of a paternalistic perspective to you solve all our problems,
you would just be recycling what we've already gone through.
We're trying to get rid of that. So please, we appreciate your help. You need to know our language. So maybe what we could tell the people here very quickly, what is not our culture?
Mm-hmm.
What is not Siksika?
Mm-hmm. Well, the main one I can start off with is alcohol wasn't a part of our culture.
Yeah, drugs is not a...
Drugs are not a part of our culture.
Prescription drugs are not...
No. What we would call, I guess you could, I'm trying to put I forgot the word in Blackfoot, just keep going. I'm just
So
trying to
all these negative things, people see that. That's why I want to raise these things.
Mm.
They raise these things, and then I see on the news there's drug problems, there's alcohol problems, dysfunction. So based on that, on the news that you guys read, that's not our culture.
Mm.
That's not our culture. Our culture is what he used the word akaikimutsios. And if you want to read a little bit or watch a little bit more of my story with Saint, go to Southern Alberta Institute of Technology and click Orange Shirt Day and just click. It's a 1-hour program. And I talked to one of the vice presidents over there. And the thing that they try to do was to get rid of the rich, powerful values that we had. Mm-hmm. And we were raised with those. And remember, we had 2 chairs here last week representing the missing and the unmarked graves that are now being discovered. And that these kids were raised the way we were raised. And I remember going as a young boy to Sundance. My grandfather was very much into Sundance. And we would always get ready, and it was our annual trip to go to the Sundance. And someone told me recently, where did Grandpa put up his TP? I told them it was kind of, when you're at the Sundance, you say,
over on that side.
On the south side, I think, towards, I almost hit it right.
Ah,
Somebody told me it was on the south north side corner. So I knew it was in that vicinity. And so every summer we would go down there. And so I enjoyed that. And we were taught powerful things that that any child would be taught in any home. And those kids that never made it home, they were taught those values. And so you want to help us? You want to know our culture? Our culture is very rich and we have people that we highly respect and we honor them. And so there's people that we look up to, that we talk to here on the res, and so forth. So I think the day is gone when the people can just come in and say, here's what you guys need. Those days are gone. It's kind of closed by way of us saying, here's some issues that we have. Today we have drugs and alcohol issues. We got programs that are set up for that. And then if there's people that are missing those, we have people that have gone through sobriety and been passed down from their parents, their grandparents to them. What has helped them? And I talk very little bit about my experience in the church, because I know that a lot of people, the problem with residential school and the church has, they got a bad name. They got a bad, so when people want to come from a church, and I tell them, well, you're representing your church, you're going to have a challenge. You're going to have a challenge.
yeah.
Because the people here, they don't separate Roman Catholics, Anglican, United, Presbyterian, and whatever your church is, they don't separate that. They just group you all in.
So, it's all grouped under Atsimushka.
Yeah.
Prayer.
Yeah.
That's the binding of all those, and it doesn't, as long, because I was taught when I was growing up, wherever there's prayer, that's good.
Yeah.
So that was always a very good lesson that you grew up with. The things that you were talking about regarding what's not who we are. The raising of children is the what's in one.
Yeah.
That was we have a way of doing that, but the Western or the non-Indigenous society have made up their own rules regarding how that needs to be done, of which we had to fit under, which left out a lot of things. And right now we're in the process of redoing that for our people regarding the raising of children and the laws that that we need to instill and abide by. So we've been given those kind of go-ahead through that. Those are part of the calls to action. There's a bill that was passed, Bill C-92, that allowed us First Nations like Siksika to put together our own child care laws, whatever you want to call it. So that's something that we're working on already right now. And that's another one of the 94 calls to action was the issue of child care. The other issue that I didn't mention was the culture. This is like what he talked about. The way we live,
Yeah.
that has never been acknowledged. We were seen as the savages, less than, dumb Indians. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have a system. There was already a system. But the government laws and policies just overrode all that, such as the Indian Act. So that's another piece of that calls to action. And the other one is geez, I forgot the other one already. But languages, culture, health, education, child care, but check out the call to action. They're there. And another thing that was not part of our culture was our election system. We adapted to Canada's way of electing people, our representatives. In our day, there was a way to get representatives from our different clans, our clan leaders and so forth. They're the ones that would select who would speak on their behalf and act on their behalf. But with this election system that we have nowadays, it's quite divisive. It pits family against family. It just sometimes it gets really ugly. Like we're trying to replicate what's happening out there. Just in this recent election that we had parties calling each other down and so forth, and that has permeated our election system also.
That's a Canadian federal election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even so, that gets very, very divisive within our community. So that one has to also we also have to take a look at how are we going to do an election system here on our reserve that incorporates our past.
Yeah.
And how that was done. So that's just some culture action. And for those things that Vincent talked about, and he said, we don't want the money. Well, look at it this way. We need the resources to be able to have the balance of services that are out there. I'll give you an example. We have bus owners here on the reserve, and they're given they're given a rate for their run to bring children to school, to nation schools, because we have our nation schools now. We have the high school, junior high, the elementary, and they have rates that they use to bring children to school. But once you're off the reserve, there's different rates that the county of Wheatland, the county of Vulcan, and the county of Newell uses. Our bus drivers, bus owners that transport children to places like Strathmore, Carsland, Bizano, Standard, Arrowwood, those are off the reserve. And some of those are quite a few kilometers. And they get the same rate that they get for on reserve, which is way less than the rate that they follow.
Yeah.
That's just one example of what you call reconciliation, a balance.
Yeah.
So
equalization, I think it's key. I think what you could do, people that want to help us, what we're talking about is kind of I would put it in a political, parking lot.
Mm.
This is political, okay? The lack of funding, not only with busing, the lack of funding.
All those things that are talked about in
house and
justice.
So if you want to come and help us, well, we could. If you're former MP, you're a former Prime Minister of Canada, this is where we would put you in any reserve across Canada. If you had issues with alcohol and drugs and so forth, and you're an expert in the culture and the values understanding, that's something that we could help. You can work with our departments and so forth. I think that the need is something that every First Nation is trying to address in their own way, and but for somebody to just drive on a reserve in their white car and saying, I can save you guys, and here's $20. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about get to know us, get to know who we are, and if you did that, I'm going to say, well, what's that guy trying to do? You know, and so what we need to come together in a good way, And that's why you need to read the TRC. The
And
T-
also,
yeah.
you need to have some confidence
Yeah,
in us. We're well educated.
yeah,
We've had to, and it's interesting education that we have. We're educated in the white school system, the white education, the curriculum. But we're also educated in the traditional ways. So we have this interesting set of learnings and teachings and knowledge and skills, two sets of them. And we've had to balance those over the years. So we're not exactly incapable of doing stuff. In fact, we're a lot more capable than people think. You
Yeah.
just have to give us a chance. And be careful about what you read in books too, because that stuff can be really slanted. Some people's, especially if it's been done by a white author, they have formed their own opinions that have permeated into teachings, which is very disconcerting and very uncomfortable for us, because we're always asked, "Well, I read this here. Is that true?" As soon as I hear that, I kind of go, "Oh, Lord! Now what have I got myself into?" So I can't really answer that. All I can say is, well, you figure it out. Also, the fact that I'll give you an example of that. Abraham Maslow, 1938-39, was here at Siksika. His name was Abraham Maslow. And he started asking a whole bunch of questions for all kinds of people. He was doing some research for, I don't know what it was for. But then he published what was known as the Maslow's theory of hierarchy, which is a standard curriculum for a lot of andragogy, adult education. And what people don't realize is that Maslow's theory was very thin. It didn't include all the pieces.
yeah,
And he interpreted the way he wanted to be it to fit the white way of doing things and white way of thinking.
yeah,
So that's already skewed in a way. So that's an example of those kind of curriculum. So be very careful about reading books. I always tell people, read books by indigenous authors. They've been there. They have an understanding of what they're trying to convey to the reader, to give some knowledge and hopefully change some attitudes. Because the one thing that we're still that the call to action, they want to right the harm that residential schools did. Well, there's also another piece regarding the term racism. That's, if you want to do something regarding 94 calls to action or reconciliation, start teaching your children the truth, so that their grandchildren will not grow up with preconceived attitudes about indigenous people, because we've been bombarded with stereotypical views ever since I can remember regarding our interaction with white people. Just like I was saying in hockey, we're seen as drunken Indians, dumb Indians. Go back to your reserve. What they don't realize is the land that they're living on is our territory. And they've had a chance to make a livelihood of that on land that we don't look at it as owning the land.
Yeah.
We take a look at it as being guardians and stewards of the land. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand, and they need to get educated about that. So that's part of reconciliation. Ken?
You know what? We ran out of time again, and but Butch, remember I played for the town of Gleason once upon a time,
Oh, yes, yeah.
and I would score a goal, and all those white people jumped up because I scored on behalf of Gleason.
Right. Gleason Gunners.
Gleason Gunners,
Yeah.
and my number was 14. And so,
By the way, I never took number 17 in hockey. Residential school number.
so we'll see you guys
Yeah.
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, we'll take a look at a little more of. I think it's really good topic about what you can do as an individual, as a family, as a community, as an organization. We can take a look at some of those things, and we'll give you some examples of what some people are doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's wonderful. Let me for your thinking, give you an example. Next week, what we're going to be talking about. There was a guy by the name of an SRDL. He was an oil businessman, and he was a good friend with the late, or one of our chiefs, Adrian Stimson, he would meet up with him, and after he got elected as chief, and he told Adrian, "I want to come and help you guys." See, here's the word: I want to come and help you guys. And this guy here, and he owned his own oil company. He had companies and drilling and so forth. You name it. I don't remember all the stuff he had, but this guy came on the reserve to help us, and that's how. I won't say all of it, but he certainly had a hand in it and helped us to establish our own oil company without his expertise. And then he knew how to negotiate with the oil that was coming out of the ground, and then with our oil coming out of our own ground, he knew how to negotiate on our behalf. Snyder, and that was his name. So when you go to the SRDL building, you find one of the boardrooms. It's named after him, John Snyder. He was a good man. I remember the staff telling me he never takes a dime from us. Never asked for an honorarium, never asked for travel money, never. That's what I mean. That guy wanted to help us. He had an expertise, and he was an expert in the oil companies, and he didn't come with a holier thou attitude and wanted to solve all. He just wanted us. At the end of the day, when he was drinking a cup of coffee, talking to us after a meeting, all he said was, "I just want to help you guys." And that's what we were thinking about. And hopefully next week we could talk about
it. And he used the acronym SRDL. Around here, that means the Siksika Resource Development Limited. That's our company arm of the nation.
Yeah.
And they have their own building on the nation. Just so for those of you who don't know our nation here.
When SRDL, the building was done, and there was a grand opening, and dignitaries from the governments were there. The cars were lined up to that service station. I happened to be the chairman of the SRDL at that time, and the chief and counsel at that time, and so I cut the ribbon on that. Not just me, the chief and others and leadership there, the board members, elders and advisors, and a lot of people. So we need people that are able to come and say, "You know what? I'm a businessman. I can." But a lot of guys, they just want money out of us, you know.
Yeah.
And we get them rich and we never hear from them.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in, and tell others about our broadcast every Wednesday. But we'll let you know when we're not available, because sometimes we get called away on things. And so I want to thank everybody for watching. My name is Butch Wolfleg, residential school survivor. We're not going to let this thing fade away, like the Buddy Holly song, For Those of You Into Rock and Roll. We're not going to let it fade away.
Yeah.
And Vincent?
Vincent, Yellow Old Woman, and we cannot have music because everybody has this copyright, huh? Because I told my son and the technicians, let's have some music. Oh, they get into a lot of trouble.
Oh, geez.
Copyright.
Except for Peter Gabriel.
Except for,
He gave that song, he gave you guys the rights to
Yeah.
that song.
yeah,
Gave that rights to that song for that the New Blood.
Yeah.
To use that song.
so we need people like that.
I think we should get Pink Floyd to give us the rights to that song was like The Wall. You know?
Do you know anybody that's still alive from the Beatles? But anyways,
Paul
we'll see you then.
McCartney. Paul McCartney. Commission a song for us.
If you're listening.
Yeah, we appreciate any kind of assistance like that. Thank you.